Slop. It's probably why you've clicked on this video. You're struggling to kill Subjugator Thol with an AMON ordnance build because the developers shoveled in an on-the-go, on-demand elemental ether modifier. Well, SLOPPENHEIMER AMON is back. And this time, we've jumped up to SLOPPENHEIMER 7. Why? Because the other 6 numbers weren't good enough. The main focus of SLOPPENHEIMER 7 is quite literally to make Subjugator beatable for everybody with a fun ordnance build. For the rest of the game, everything is second nature. The only true difficulty in this build actually comes from raid bossing, because as you can see, when it comes to regular bossing in this game, it is a piece of cake. But this isn't just a regular AMON build video, because I'm also going to show you how you beat Subjugator with this build towards the end. But first, if you want a written guide on this build, you can find the link in the description down below. And let's get right into the breakdown of this build. Okay, so starting off with our skill tree, this build is just an improvement on the original SLOPPENHEIMER with a little more optimization. So we're going to get started in the red tree. First of all, for the action skill, of course, we're going with Onslaughter. When you've done this, you go 5 points into What Burns Within, 5 into Tritanium, 1 into Gut Punch, 5 into Bullet Storm, and now we're doing 5 into Catastrophe, 2 into Dragon's Breath, 3 into Crackling, and 1 into Electrical. Grab the first augment of Force of Nature and then the capstone, Stormcolor. For the blue tree, we do 5 points into Battleborn, 5 points into Scorch Kairos, 3 points into the Thrill, 5 points into Tail of the Comet, and then 0 points into Ancient Ways. This is from my class mod here. 5 points into Icy Rage, 4 points into Primal Surge, and 5 points into Blackout. For your specialization tree, make sure you get Riddle You This, the Best Defense, Fragmentation Payload, and Full Spectrum Arsenal. So you'll need to be able to get 20 points into Survivor, 20 into Brute, and 20 into Gadgeteer at the bare minimum. The rest of your points, sink them into stuff like crit damage if you want, or you can go and put them into Runner for more movement speed, which is also nice. And now finally, for the item loadout. This is very important, and it is unfortunately the biggest downside of this build. In order to destroy the Subjugator, we need to make sure that we are running the absolute best gear we can get. So first and foremost, for our firmware, make sure you have 2 of your items with Skillcraft, get 2 of your items with High Caliber, and get 1 of your items with Active Fire. You can only get Active Fire to drop in UVH 7, so just be aware of that, and I believe Skillcraft is UVH 6. The rep kit we are using is the War Paint. The reason we are using the War Paint is for the fire rate bonus. The movement speed is also extremely helpful, as I will show you later, but mainly we are using this for the fire rate, so try to get the fire rate augment on it, which will give you 45% fire rate. For the class mod, we actually have 2 picks. The first one, which you will be using all the time in this build basically, is the Icebringer. Try to get 5 points into Tail of the Comet, and try to get extra ordnance damage, ordnance crit chance, and skill crit chance on here if you can, like I've got. But if you can't, just go with something that has a decent enough roll. Just try to aim for 5 in Tail. For the enhancement, go with literally any enhancement so long as it has gun damage and gun crit damage in the passives. But if you can get gun equip speed, that is also a very desirable roll. But because, as you can see, I have a legendary enhancement, I can't get 3 passives. For our weapon, of course, welcome back SLOPPENHEIMER. You only need this, the Heimdall. This will be your main ordnance that you run, apart from one specific boss, which we will get to. You need it in non-elemental, and you are looking for the roll I've got here at level 60. This is the max damage roll. Don't worry about why it says Deadeye, that's just a bug in the game, but I actually have a point into Skillcraft here. And finally, for our shield, and by far, apart from the class mod, the hardest, and I mean the absolute hardest item to get, is a triple amp What's for Dinner. You can get double amp and have 100% gun damage, or even single amp and get 50% gun damage, but getting the roll with amp 150 will give you the absolute most damage. The only problem with this is that this roll is near impossible to get. If you find a What's for Dinner in your Maurice vendor, farm it over and over again and try to get one of these. This is key to do the maximum damage. Again, you can do 100 or even 50 amp instead, but if you want the fastest times possible and the least amount of friction in your gameplay, aim for 150. Okay, and now finally, before we move on, let's talk about the backup items. These are items which you are going to probably need at some point, some of them more than others, and let's get right into those, starting with the ordnance slot. So, first and foremost, when we are facing Subjugator and Thol, if you are doing specifically the Thol portion of the boss fight, I recommend having a Heimdall in Fire Element, because you will be element matching. So try and get a Fire Heimdall and get it again with your desired firmware. You can see I don't have that on mine. But this is just going to hopefully output even more DPS against Thol, because he is one big flesh bar. But you do not need this. I typically in my gameplay just keep this one on and it works just fine. But if you want to go the extra mile, get a Fire Heimdall. And now we're going to get into the mandatory items that you're going to need for the raid bosses in the game. Now, first and foremost, let me make it absolutely clear that, as you can see on screen right here, it is not my fault that we have to do this. The whole gimmick of the SLOPPENHEIMER build is to only use one ordnance, which is the Heimdall. But unfortunately, the tracking system in Borderlands 4 is absolute dog water. So please, please, please forgive me and just pretend I'm not even telling you this right now when you form your opinions on this build. It would mean a lot to me that I am going to have to require you use another rocket launcher for Bloomreaper. The reason why is because the Heimdall will not properly track the crystals or the corrupt vile Ordnite things that come out of it, and the ads in the arena. It breaks heavily. So for Bloomreaper the Invincible, what I'm going to tell you to do is get either the Tongue Wag purple rocket launcher here, this is a wild drop by the way, or get the Honey Bunches. Get one of these two, because they will absolutely wreck Bloomreaper. I ran a quick test with this last night and got a very, very easy platinum, so just go and grab one of those, okay? I am really sorry that I have to do this, but for some reason, I don't know why we're still making tracking stuff in a game where we can't even get it working properly, but honestly, that's not my problem. That is a problem for Gearbox. My job is to give you this build, and unfortunately, this is just what we have to do. And speaking of what we have to do, the next item, which is a non-negotiable for the Subjugator boss fight in particular, is the Grenadier AMON class mod with as many points into Blackout as you can possibly roll. The reason why, for those of you who do not know, is the second half of the Subjugator the Invincible boss fight has a fixed mechanic where the most damage the Subjugator takes from one specific element source up until the 50% mark of his health bar will result in the second half of him having complete elemental eater lifesteal from that element. So what do I mean by this? Well, in a nutshell, if the majority of my damage in the first half of Subjugator's health bar is from cryo, for example, then he will do a little invincibility animation, and the second half of his health bar, if he gets hit by any cryo damage, he will heal his bar for 300% of the damage he takes. This mechanic is bullshit. That is just the best way I can put it. This is the worst mechanic they've probably put in a Borderlands game since I don't even know how long. Like, it is so mind-blowing that they thought this was a good idea, especially because AMON, his main source of damage when he's doing ordnance builds, is Tail of the Comet. So making a mechanic which essentially soft locks the fight for him is just, quite frankly, careless. So the reason we're doing the Grenadier swap, which we will do halfway through the fight, is because we want to override as much of the Tail of the Comet as we can with Blackout, so he purposely becomes immune to shock damage in the second half. The reason why is because I know that with this build reliably, we can do way more with Tail of the Comet than we can with Blackout. So That's the goal, and I'm going to show you a live example of how you fight these bosses now. Before we get over to the raid boss here, let me talk about the key rule in this build to avoid you playing it incorrectly and then telling me that it sucks. The key rule here is the rule of ammo consumption. The Heimdall, at least if you do the most with your ammo, you're probably going to end up at around 3 in the chamber, which means you have 3 shots before you lose your ordnance and it goes on cooldown. Now, we are using the Primal Surge skill in Blue Tree, which should in theory prevent this. However, it is still possible to screw yourself over. Let me explain why. Let's say I'm in a fight and I'm shooting my Heimdall like so, but I want to pop my action skill. And my Heimdall only has 2 ammo in the mag, and that means it is not max. You see now it's at 3, but if I get it to 2 and pop my action skill, I am now on a 10-second cooldown. If I had done that when I had 1 ammo in my Heimdall, I would be on a 20-second cooldown. When you are going for platinums in raid bosses, time is everything. You cannot afford this to happen. The rule of thumb with this build is never, and I mean ever, first of all, let your ammo drop to 1 if you can help it, but second of all, and most important, never swap off of your ordnance when it is not at max ammo. If you swap off of your ordnance when it's at max ammo, look what happens. It does not go on cooldown, which means you can pull it right back out. So if I want to pop my rep kit right now, I make sure that I'm maxed, pop my rep kit, and I'm ready to go. If I had done that with 2 ammo, it would have screwed me over completely. Okay, so now let me show you guys how you're going to fight the Subjugator and Thol. There is a little bit of an important mechanic you need to be aware of here, and this might shock you. It's a bug. Gearbox, for some reason, still have not fixed the way tracking projectiles work in this game. And in the Subjugator and Thol fight, there is a very key mechanic at the start of the fight, which will screw your times over. And it, my friends, is these orbs that you can see in the corner here. I'll let them materialize in. It is these orbs. There's one there, there is one there, and also one there. So, typically, I would go ahead and I would just skip to trying to melt the Subjugator right here. But I'm going to show you what is going to happen if I do that without going after these. If I just fire off my Heimdall and think it's going to melt the Subjugator, then they are just going to power up and heal him. During this time, he becomes completely immune, as you can see, and Primal Surge cannot proc on him, meaning I can no longer regen ordnance ammo, which is a big problem. Now, I'm sure you're probably thinking the easy way to get around this is just to drop into the fight and then simply just make sure you shoot at those orbs. Well, because of the way tracking works, look what's going to happen. I'm going to shoot towards that orb, and the projectile is going to turn around and go straight for Subjugator. So when the fight starts, I am going to drop down and I'm going to hover, and straight away, that one is getting barrel-nosed right there. Same with this one. I'm going to fire one at Subjugator there, and then I'm going to go and try to deal with the others to avoid this guy from just getting insta-healed. And then I'm just going to spam the Heimdall to take him out. And as you can see, even if he starts to get healed, most of those orbs should go down. And in just 20 to 25 seconds of the fight starting, we are past this very annoying phase that sometimes just screws you over because of the tracking bug. Now look what I just did there. I popped my rep kit, and now my ordnance is on cooldown, delaying me. Never do that. So even I messed that up. You can see that in the live example, I just messed it up. But now for the rest of the fight, it's very simple. Until we go to the Abyss, we are just managing our ammo and melting both of the bosses. And that is all you have to do. Just keep moving, keep jumping around, stay alive, and yeah, the SLOPPENHEIMER will take care of the rest for you. And it will just dumpster on these bosses. You don't really have to do much more. And hey, if you're here from the video where I mentioned how hard the Subjugator portion of this fight is, let me show you a trick to deal with it, and it's especially useful for this build. So when we first go up into this fight, there is something you need to know about Subjugator's Abyss fight. He has a lot of attacks and is going to barrage you with all of them, and some of them are going to kill even the tankiest of builds, so they will absolutely kill SLOPPENHEIMER AMON. So when the fight starts, this pillar right here is going to be your best friend with the little tree underneath, right? Check out what I do here. The fight starts, I jump underneath, I fire a shot here, I fire a shot here. And I'm looking on my combat radar, and when I see that those adds are down, and again, I'm trying to keep myself at 3 ordnance ammo, but when those adds are down, now I'm going to go over here, and something you may have missed right there is he tried to do his, like, crazy high damage wrist attack on me, and it hit the pillar, did not kill me. So now those adds are down, now I'm ready to damage. I'm going to pop my rep kit, pop my action skill, and I'm just going to stand here. And I'm going to keep jumping around because these Novas, as you can see, go across the floor and above your head. So you want to just try not to get hit by either of them, conserving your ammo, and going after Subjugator. Now, because my action skill is active and we have detonations, as my action skill goes towards the end, I'm going to hit him with Stormcutter here to deal even more damage to him. And again, I'm going to dodge the purple orbs if he pulls them up because they do a lot of damage. But now we are done with the big guy, which is crazy how fast that took, right? So, here is where you have to change up this build in order to get around the annoying Elemental Eater healing mechanic, right? As soon as you do that, go ahead and swap over to the Grenadier class mod. The next one is going to spawn in. This is really aggressive. Stay above this guy. If you don't stay above him, he is going to absolutely melt you. You're also going to have extra adds. Try to make sure you're killing those. But try to stay above this version of Subjugator, because if you don't, he is going to deal so much damage to you and probably kill you here. But we're dealing shock damage more than we're dealing cryo right now, because we want to make sure Tail of the Comet is what we're on for the second half. So when he gets to around 50% HP here, guys, he's going to do an animation. And he's going to become now basically immune to shock. And at that point, we're going to swap back to the Icebringer class mod. So check this out. He's immune. I see he's immune. I go into my inventory. I swap to the Icebringer. And again, I'm going to make sure that I'm largely staying away from him and above him. Remember the rule I said. Never swap off of your ordnance with not max ammo, because I'm going to need to grapple to stay above him so he doesn't get a cheap down on me. Right? The adds in this fight have so much HP, the last thing I want is to go down right here. I'm going to pop my rep kit as well, because it's going to give me movement speed. Again, look, I'm grappling up. Staying above the adds, friends. Staying above the adds. And I'm laying into him with Tail of the Comet here. Grappling again at max ammo. He can't hit me right now. And watch this. Look at the timer. Look at the timer. He's dead. We just got platinum. This is not pre-recorded gameplay. This is live gameplay. So that is an example of how you platinum this absolutely ridiculous mechanic, right? There you go. So this was the goal of SLOPPENHEIMER 7. Don't just make an AMON build that is very good and very strong. Make an AMON build which is so strong that it even bypasses the horrible game design on show in this new raid boss. So I want to say thank you to Lazy Data and Girthquake, not only for the emotional support of me having a breakdown finding out about this mechanic, but also their suggestions on how we can potentially get around it. Now, just to finish up the video here, you can leave if you really want to, but I'm going to quickly show you gameplay of Thol's fight. It is basically Subjugator easy mode. There's no crazy mechanics you have to worry about. Typically in this portion of the fight, there would be a ton of adds that you have to worry about. Not with the SLOPPENHEIMER build. You just basically hug Thol, keep spamming at him. You should never run out of ammo. Pop the rep kit and your action skill as you need it. It's just going to take a while. He's got a lot of HP, but you're going to get platinum every time. I'm yet to do Thol or Subjugator for that matter on this build and not get platinum. Thol should be a piece of cake. It's just going to be boring because he's one big bullet sponge, but you shouldn't die and you shouldn't have any issues. It really does just make it kind of foolproof. Okay, and I didn't have any extra gameplay on hand to show you the Bloomreaper fight without the SLOPPENHEIMER, so we're just going to do this live instead. So again, you want to get either the purple tongue wag or the purple honey bunches, and again, big shout out to Lazy Data for that suggestion. I think Jolts maybe suggested it too. Okay, so here we go. We're starting off the fight. I popped my rep kit probably too early, but it's not the end of the world right here. We're going to jump up onto the platform. And I'm going to pull out my rocket launcher, and I'm just going to unload at the floor where the crystals are, and it should take care of not only the crystals but also the vile particles that come out of them as well. As you can see, because I popped my rep kit too early here, I'm losing a lot of fire rate, but it is what it is. Don't make the mistake that I did. But we're just going to unload on the crystals to get him out of his first phase. And then we go on with the rest of the fight. Very, very easy. Don't worry about killing any of the ads. You can just jump around, let him do his little summoning ritual dance right here, and we'll get on with the rest of the fight. So now he's out of his phase. As you can see, I pop my action skill, and we're just going to unload on him around near his feet. Again, if I need to use Stormcutter for extra damage, then I can. And he's into his next phase, very easy. And he's about to come out of it, so I'm going to swap back over. And he's actually going to jump down, that's fine. And we're just going to keep raining fire on him here. And that will get us our platinum kill for Bloomreaper. And I still absolutely despise this boss. So please, don't ask me to fight him again. But yeah, I hope you guys liked it. And if you did, please leave a like on the video. It really, really does help out in the YouTube algorithm. And also leave a comment too. That's great for us also. Alright, thank you guys. Hope it helps. And I'll check you in the next one.